Hey everyone, and welcome back. And I apologize for the quick hiatus. This is Rick Bosley, the team leader for the Bosley team at Keller Williams. We're talking about what's happening in real estate by the numbers. We're going to deep dive into the real estate market, the data, the trends, and what it means for the buyers and the sellers who are looking to get in the real estate market today. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, I am back here. Let's hold on. I'm going to turn down the volume for my perfect. So now I see exactly what's happening, and we're going to go right into it. We asked Ray Lopez to join us. Ray has done a mastermind with me the last couple of weeks. He's a top agent and broker and operating principal for Keller Williams. So he's going to try to jump on as we come through it based on the discussions we've had. Yet I want to go right into it, and let's take a look. If you can see what I see here. And as always, we're starting off with the market pulse. I've got a little bit of a delay. Yes, perfect. Now I've got the market pulse in here. So let's take a look. I'm going to zoom this up. And as we look at the market pulse, this is data and this is information from the Orlando Regional Realtors Association this is actually what's happening in the board. And when we look at these numbers, this is essentially the Tri-County area, the Seminole County, Orange County, Osceola County, and a couple excerpts of Volusia, Polk, and Lake. So we're getting a piece of that, but that's predominantly what we're doing here. And as we look, this is May 2021. So we're looking at last month's records. And the average interest rate is stayed at 2.97. Now we're going to talk on that real quick because based on our information this morning in our mastermind, people are expecting that it's going to raise anytime between the second half of this year to early spring next year. So we're expecting that's going to be doing an increase. If you're looking to buy or to refinance, I would suggest doing it right now while they're still hovering at 3%. And we're going to see some of those trends of what's going to happen there. As we look at the inventory that we have, inventory is a total of 2,800 homes. Now, the reason that the supply and the demand and the prices have gone up as high as they have is strictly because, and I've mentioned this before, you're playing a game of musical chairs, except there's about 10 people playing and only one chair to choose from. Therefore, people are overpaying above market value. And I use that word overpaying loosely. They're paying what the market is demanding right now. So supply and demand remains low. And as long as it remains low with that inventory, prices will keep going up. Of that 2,800, let's see how that compares to previous. So May is typically when we have inventory where we see a spike. A lot of people will plan to sell their house during the summer months so that they can capitalize on that kind of the lull time when most real estate is happening. In fact, let's look at a normal year of going back to 2020 was anything but normal, but that's what we have right here. You can see inventory was 7,200 homes, right? And you can see it did spike up a little bit. Actually, April was higher, May hit, and this was right around when COVID started. So things slowed down a little bit, but 7,200, 76, 65 versus 26, 28. So from a percentage wise, I'd say about 50, 60% less homes in terms of what's available than there was before. Let's keep scrolling right. New listings. So people say, real estate stall, there's nothing that's for sale. It is for sale. It's just getting bought up quickly. It's like the deal busters, the door breakers on Black Friday. It's for sale and it's going away fast. New listings that hit the market just in May was 4,315. Look at even the previous, well, let's see when we've listed more homes than we did last month. I don't see it. In the last 2 years, and really in the history of real estate, we've never listed more because last month was an all-time high in April. Now we're at an all-time high again in May. So we've never had more opportunity to buy houses than we have right now based on the new listing inventory with 4,315 homes coming on for sale. The crazy part is they're going under contract as fast as they're getting listed. So of those 4,300, an additional 4,000, we'll call it 4,000 homes were new contracts. Currently under contract, you look at the homes that are currently pending, meaning they're no longer actively for sale, but we haven't quite closed yet. There's 5,800 houses that are under contract. When we look at that versus back in market, we have a mastermind a little bit of some buyers are going through, and they're talking about, putting multiple offers in, sight unseen, and then the deal falls off. That's actually happening at a rate higher than this shows. So take me off here. At a rate higher than this shows, because here's a real life scenario of what happens. We list a house for us and our team. We like to list it on the weekends. That's when we're going to get the most activity. We host the open houses to attract the most amount of people to walk through the house. So we'll list on a Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, hold a couple open houses, and then usually by Sunday, Monday, we have several offers in hand. Now, in the circumstance or in the moment, we're going to take a look at it, and we're going to choose the highest and best offer for our seller. Excuse me, they're going to choose. We're going to outline the offers, and the sellers will choose it. And sometimes that best offer either changes their mind, they go through inspections, change of heart, whatever might reason. Instead of us going back on the market, which is what's reflected in the market pulse, and you see back in market, we're just calling the second position in line that says, hey, if your party's still interested, we would still like to sell it to them. So when we looked at, total of what's happening, let me get back to the market pulse here. When we look at this of 306 back on market out of 4,000, let me do that, 306 divided by 4,000, this says of the new contracts, only 7 to 8% are going back on market. Yet in the reality, when we talk to our title companies, they're seeing 20 to 25% of contracts being canceled. What I say by that is, we've got a listing, contract comes in, we send it over to title companies, say, hey, title company, here's the buyers in the contract. And the title company who we use, that's got several offices, they've got some great data and market share. They're saying 20 to 25% of those are getting canceled. So what's the moral of the story to that? The moral of the story says if you're a seller, it's important now more than ever to look at all the terms and the makeup of the buyer, the lender, the cash that they have available, the proof of funds, the pre-approval, all those things we want to scrutinize. It's a good idea. I can't say anything absolute because everything is going to be an example. Yet, if somebody makes an offer and they've not walked through your house, that's a yellow flag. It's not a red flag deal breaker, but it is a yellow flag of I am more prone to say we have a stronger buyer if they physically have walked through the house, if they've seen the neighbors, if they've walked down the street, driven in the area, know where the closest Publix is, they've experienced at least what it's like to live there versus just what pictures are. Now, I've had some buyers buy some house sight unseen, and they're extremely intentional and serious, and they bought the house and reclosed. So I'm not going to say it's a deal breaker, yet it is something to look at for sellers. Other things, again, how much are they putting down? What are the terms? What's the financing type? When you call their lender, have a conversation with the lender listing agent, or sellers, have your listing agents call that lender, have conversations to make sure that pre-approval is legit. It's not just a pre-qualification. There's not contingent upon this latest job offer that's going to get there. I was talking with an agent today, and he called and verified with one of the lenders. The lender's response was, this buyer has several offers out. Which address is yours? Yeah, so what's happening is buyers are, with the midst of this crazy musical chairs, they say, you know what, I love any three of these houses. Let me write an offer on 1, 2, and 3, and hopefully I get one of them. And if I get one of them, great. If I get less than one or more than one, then I'll be able to then choose there for it. So that's what's happening a little bit as we look at the market pulse and we look at how to navigate that. I'm bringing on Ray Lopez here. Hey, Ray, can you hear me?
I sure can. Can you hear me?
Perfect. We hear you loud and clear. So we're live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube. Edwin, I appreciate Edwin Vasquez. You're up here listening right now. So Ray, I've already done the introduction, and what I've shared with them so far is the market pulse, and I've gone over interest rates, and I want to chat with you a little bit about, what some experts are saying about that. We talked about the inventory and how it's 2,800 now versus last year we were at 7,200, and how that's creating this frenzy in this market. We talked about back on market, although it's showing is about 7.5%. The reality is it's closer to about 20 to 25% of contracts not sticking, but instead of going back on market, we're just calling our backup offers. But Ray, you studied this, I'd say, if not me, then you, in terms of who studies these numbers at a high level. I can't think of anybody else. So thanks for joining me on this. What is your interpretation? Because this morning we talked about there's some leading measures that says it's a little bit slow. We are not in the hype of what we were seeing in May and June, or May and early June, whether it's buyer fatigue or a slightly show slift or vacations. What are your thoughts? What's happening from this data and what's happening from expectations of leading measures?
Well, this data is for May. So I think what's great is the May numbers are actually what happened in April when you look at all this. So
Okay.
this spring we had a white hot market, even a faster market than 2005 and 6. I never thought I'd be in another one of those, but with this shortage of inventory back then, we got down to about 3,900 homes, and we never went over 4,000 homes sold like we did the last couple of months.
Yep.
But so it really made for a very, very, almost like a cyclone, 20, 30, 40 offers, people going $50,000, $100,000 over. The good thing is, as you can see, we bumped up almost 200 homes in inventory, which is good. It gives our buyers back a little bit of power. But to your point, Rick, what we're seeing in the last 2 to 3 weeks is we've seen less showings. We've seen not super duper multiple offer. Now, I say that. I listed 3 houses last week. 2 are still available and 1 got 9 offers. Okay, difference is 2 that I list that are still on the market need work. And we listed at the top, right?
Yeah.
The one that we listed at about what it should be listed for, and it's got granite and nice, and it's a townhome and conservation in a cul-de-sac, 9 offers. So
let's unpack that real quick, because we have a different audience here, right? Some audience might be buyers and sellers, might be some investors, it might be agents, and how we can consult them to talk with their buyers and sellers. Even a couple months ago, buyers or sellers could get away with listing for top notch with a not top notch condition. Yet what you experienced last week, if you got to replace the carpet, you got to do the paint, like we used to in good old fashioned real estate. To get top dollar price point, you have to have top dollar condition. You're seeing that very, very hyper locally, at least in this moment of time for the past 2 and 3 weeks. That's showing to be true again. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct. So after the first week, I reached out to a couple of lender partners of mine that are at high levels, and they looked at their applications for loans, for approvals, and or credit pulls, because that's what they looked at. And their numbers, both of their numbers were down, and down over the spring numbers. So what that means is people are going on vacation. People are fatigued. There are some people that haven't taken a vacation in over 12 months. Yeah. Now their kids finish school May 30th, I think. I don't have kids anymore. I'm a little older than that. And now the kids are out. Why not go on vacation for a week or 2, or make it special, because, this is the non-COVID summer.
Because we've earned it.
That's right.
People are much more vaccinated, and so restaurants, establishments, airlines. I think I saw cruises are starting to open up again. Disney, I think, dropped their masks. So people all of a sudden saying the world is opening up. No longer do I want to be, focusing on this. Let me just take a break. We talked a lot about the word fatigue today. How much fatigue is showing up from buyers' fatigue, and what correlation do you put that on? And you said it real quick, but I think it's extremely important. We talk about leading and lagging measures, right? And a leading measure is a signal that will have a ripple effect to a result. And a leading measure says if your lender, and it's a big bank, right? What's the bank, or how many?
Well, Brad that owns Bank of England, and then Chris Wassinger that runs the state of Florida for Homebridge.
Perfect. So we can say at least the state of Florida.
Yes.
And they said their application polls for agent or buyers to get pre-approved for purchase or pre-approved for refinance is down 6% versus what it was
March and April, which is the spring.
Yeah. Okay. In the springtime is typically when we're seeing those things ramp up, yet they're down. Yeah. And if we look at this again, Ray, I just saw this as you were chatting. I'm going to pull this StreamYard up. As we look at this, look at sales closed, and all of a sudden March is when we hit this peak, right? 32, 36, 27, 29, and then all of a sudden 42. What do you think happened for people writing contracts in February to close in March that went up by 50 to 60%, and why is it staying there? What do you think is that correlation?
Well, I think that if you look at January and February, those are the people shopping right at Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Okay.
People, again, we had a slowdown. We were able to get houses for people. You talked about lead and lag measures, because if you go back, if you roll the market pulse up and you look at the numbers for April and May, right, we had In May, we had 2,127 home sales. Okay. That number is typically around 3,500.
Okay.
April, the same thing. So those, call it 1,500 to 2,000 home buyers that we didn't have because of COVID, those people all spread out at the end of the year because they still wanted to buy and sell. And then also we have the people from up north coming. So to answer your question, everybody took a little bit of a break for the holidays, hence the lower numbers in January and February, because that's when the transaction closed. But come January 1st, people said, okay, let's get back to it. We are going to buy a house, and we know that it's going to get worse in the summer. So why don't we start looking now? Even if I have to break my apartment lease early, I would rather know that I'm going to have a house than compete like I did last summer, because it was really hard for buyers to win stuff for about 8 months last year.
Right.
So,
well, and it really hasn't stopped. I remember taking a listing in February and listing it like a traditional, good old-fashioned listing would be. And I wasn't saying, let's plan on a 1% increase month over month, and let's, the market says 300, so let's go 325 because we can. And that's how we've been listing it pretty much from March until now. And I'm seeing now we have to be a little more conservative or put money back into it. As you were saying that, it reminded me of maybe not I-4. I-4 is always on a traffic jam, but any interstate, right? If you're from Orlando, you know what I'm talking about. Any interstate, right? So miles up the road, a little fender bender happened, and people now do that like what's happening, but that little bit of a lag is causing miles upon miles of a traffic jam.
Ripples.
Backlog. Yep. And so that 45 to 60 days last March and April, when COVID was new and we weren't sure what things would be open. I had some pendings and we weren't sure if real estate was an essential service, if they could actually buy a house. Many states, Michigan, Pennsylvania, it wasn't essential. Real estate realtors could not go out there and do services anymore. Inspectors were. So that 60 days of what the heck is this COVID and what's going to happen, although we recovered quickly in terms of real estate activity, those 60 days created a traffic jam fender bender that now we are still recovering from. Just with that, there would have been 1,500 people who bought a house, but they didn't. Therefore, it's getting pushed back. And then everyone else is going, get me the heck out of New York, out of California, out of all these states where it's either too cold or too expensive. And where do they go? Las Vegas, Arizona, or Florida.
Yeah.
Right.
Texas.
So we're seeing that. So why, Ray, and I don't have this answer. This is not a hypothetical. This is asking someone who's smarter than I am. It makes sense why Florida has this inventory issue. Why does every city in every state, for the majority, why is Michigan having an inventory issue? It's happening everywhere. Is that just that same COVID 60-day backlog traffic jam?
Nope. I think that's part of it. So let's talk about that. So when you look back I was lucky enough in 2005 and 6 to be in real estate, and I was lucky enough to be in 2007 when we couldn't. So you just showed the market pulse where we had 2,800 homes. In September of 2007, we had 26,306 homes.
10 times.
10 times. Yeah. We had 10 times. And that month we sold as a agent population of 12,000 agents, we sold a whopping 810 of them. Wow. So we had many months of inventory, right? We had almost 30 months of inventory.
Yeah, right? 32 months. 32
it was. So the next year we lost a third of our realtor population because nobody was selling real estate. But what happened after that was, the Great Recession, 2008. I was talking to a lender yesterday, and he says, when Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns collapsed in 2008, I started getting scared because these are banks that were 50 to 100 years old that weathered all kinds of storms, and they couldn't weather this. So that's when everything started melting down. So the reason I bring that up is in 2008, if you're a builder, you're not building houses because there's too many other houses for sale. And a new home is like a new car. If you buy a new car, don't turn around within a year and try to sell it and make money.
Right.
You're going to lose money. Right. So the builders stopped building or slowed way down. And over the course of the next 10 to 12 years, they were deficient anywhere between 300,000 and 400,000 homes not being built until 2018 or 19 when they finally got back on track. So the Fannie Mae numbers are somewhere between 4.5 to 5 million homes nationwide aren't built because of the Great Recession. So we spread that around because Florida is just one of the states. And then we top COVID. You know, when if I'm an older person, and I'm a little older, but I'm not that old, if I was thinking about moving to the villages and I was let's call it March or April, I wouldn't have moved because I wouldn't want anybody through my house. And
Yep.
because I was high risk, if I'm 65 or over, high risk for COVID. So there's going to be a lot of people that didn't move last year that may move this year or next year, which will help us. So you figure those two events are huge.
So let's talk on those two things. We've known we've got an inventory issue. This inventory issue, on one hand, I've given the answer of going production's down. When these warehouses shut down for 6 to 12 months, the reason that new developments aren't building 15 to 20 homes a month is because they don't have AC units, windows, lumber prices quintupled, and it's going down a little bit. But you're going, yeah, that's a short-term COVID response. Yet even longer than that is we still have a traffic jam from 10 to 15 years ago that we are overcoming from when builders halted their production. And I remember Gary Keller mentioned that of going, if everything would have kept going and we would have kept production the same, we'd stay at a 4% growth and we'd have, an extra million homes in inventory. What's the number you said? How many are we short?
We're short 4.5 to 5 million, depending on which source
to 5 million. And I wonder, that would give us that balanced market. That would make prices calm down, and then that would make everything normal. We know it's not normal. So you take the Great Recession, halt in building, now a halt in supplies, then 60 days of people not doing real estate. And all these factors are building up this balloon effect that's creating this inventory issue. When does this inventory issue stop, or is this the new normal, at least for the future, indefinite future? What's going to change this seller's market where people are waiving appraisals and going above market value? And
I think this will slow down a little bit next year to a certain extent.
okay.
When interest rates go higher, when we have the COVID people start listing properties, there's going to be, prices are going crazy right now. What was the number that you used for appreciation?
It's since 2011, 120%. So that's 12% a year over 10 years.
So in January of 2011, I was on the news giving my prediction of what's going to happen in 2011. And I went and found the median price for Orlando, and it was $95,000. As of last month, is $300,000. So
that's 3x, right? And that's in Orlando. So we're looking at everything else. I started in January 2011, and I remember my first team meeting. You were probably helping leading it, and it was 97,000. And to me, that was normal, and that's what it was. And an agent who joins now, that's just normal. So what are you telling your buyers, or what are your buyers agents telling your buyers that say, I don't want to play in this Hunger Games of real estate. I'm just going to rent for another year, and I'm going to come back when things calm down and I don't have to go give a firstborn child to get a house. What are you guys saying to those buyers?
Well, what I would say is if you want to live in Orlando, first and foremost, if you want to rent, that's fine. Because if I tell them that they can't rent, they will go rent, right?
Sure.
Because, that's just what people do. But what I do want to do is I want to bring them into my office and I want to kind of show them what's going on. I show them the market pulse and I show them how tight our inventory is. We talk about why the inventory is so short and why it's not going to be going through the roof like it did in 2008. So I've worked with some older people that said, it really turned around within 2 years. It went from 3,900 to 26,000. Ray, you just told me that. And it was like, you know what, you're right. Because all the new construction that we're building back then was all for false buyers. Well, this is the difference between us and Michigan, because you mentioned that. People are moving to these, they call them the Sunbelt states, right? So we are getting record numbers. And I read an article, it was a Realtor.com article a week ago, and every 7 people that move into Florida, only 1 leaves. So we're netting that many people, okay?
Wow.
And people are just, because of COVID, they've said, hey, by the way, I can now have my $200,000 New York job and work from home. Well, why don't I work from a place that I've always wanted to go to versus a place that I was stuck?
Yeah.
So a lot of relocations, a lot of, we're starting to see companies start looking at tax type things. My son actually called me yesterday and said, "Hey, Dad, I don't know if this helps or hurts you, but China wants to stop letting the cryptocurrencies be mined over there for economic purposes." And he goes, "I don't know if this helps or hurts, but Florida and Texas raised their hand and said, 'We'll take you.'" Of course we will, right? Florida wants all the economic positiveness, right?
Boosters,
So
sure.
yeah, so those are all the things that when I sit down with somebody, I also have my people take out a 30-year calculator, right? And we talk about, you talked about interest rates for just a second. And the way interest rates work is, of course, they're tied to the bond market. And, there's a very complicated explanation. But as a realtor, what I know, being in real estate for 18 years, when the world or the nation is in trouble, okay, 9/11, COVID, Brexit, not breakfast, Brexit.
Not breakfast, Brexit.
Yeah,
Brexit,
there you go. European Union. And China devaluing their yen. Every time that something happens bad, the Fed lowers their interest rate to stabilize homes.
Right.
Because basically, if you look at it, the average person, the greatest amount of wealth typically is in their home, their nest egg. And when that starts getting threatened, people don't go on vacation. People don't buy cars. So right now, you can't buy a car. And right now, all the rooms are filled in all the places in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm telling my people, look, this is the thing. We know interest rates are going up. There's a very smart lady that runs the Treasury, and her name's Janet Yellen, right? And she said that rates are going up. And as soon as that happens, the stock market went way down.
Right.
So if we know they're going up, and 2.5 years ago, we were at 5%, and now you just showed that we are at 2.97%. I just show somebody, look, if we're looking at a house for $350 today, we know that next year, because the inventory shortage isn't going to go away anytime in the next few years, it could be at 380, it could be at 400, but let's leave it at 350. Let's just say nothing happens. Best case scenario. But you're buying now at a 3.5% interest rate. See the extra $50 to $70 a month you're paying? And if it goes to 4, see the $150 to $200 you're paying more for the same exact house. This is why you need to buy now. You can rent if that's what you want. Just know that when we get back together to buy next year, the house will be more expensive. The rate will be different based on what the experts are saying, not Ray Lopez.
Sure.
So,
yeah, you and I, all we do is interpret the information, and hopefully this was information for if you to watch this and still are watching it, then we've done the heavy lifting, we've done the reading, we've had the conversations to bring you in summary. Inventory is all-time low. Sales are all-time high. Inventory is low because of a 15-year lag of production from the Great Recession. Inventory is low from a traffic jam that happened with COVID that now people are coming in. Inventory is low because Florida is netting 6 people a month for every 7 in, only 1 leave. Therefore, in the game of musical chairs, there are less and less chairs available and more people playing. So prices will keep going up. If you're a seller, you cannot have a complete money greed and grab because buyers are getting a little bit more wise, although still desperate. They are going to pay for great conditioned houses and leave the ones that aren't in great condition left. There's 2 types of houses on the market. There's ones that sell and ones that help the other ones sell. If you're a seller, you've got to make sure that not only are you priced right, you are priced right and in the same or better condition than your competitor. So we always look at, and we can go through this next month, as we go through with appraisers, I talk with my sellers. Appraisers look what happened 90 and 180 days ago. Buyers are looking at what's happening 90 to 180 days from now. And the market's moving that fast, which is why they're paying 5, 10, 15,000 waived appraisal above. So you keep that in mind, agents, buyers, sellers. This market's not going to change anytime soon, hopefully, and I think it is starting to slow, whether it's because of vacation, a fatigue, or because we just couldn't sustain the amount of movement that was happening. Did I summarize that pretty well, Ray?
Yep, sure did.
Okay.
Great summary.
If you guys have any questions, please reach out to Ray Lopez or myself, reply to whoever sends this to you, or comment on the Facebook and YouTube, and we're very active with responding to that. So thanks everyone for watching. Ray, as always, thanks for jumping in. I always appreciate your wisdom and partnering with you as we explore what's happening here, and hopefully everyone's found some value. Until then, we'll see you next time for the Orlando Homeowner Show. Have a great day, everyone. Take care.
Thanks, Rick.